Welcome to True Crime and a Dime
where we tell you a chilling story.
in 10 minutes time.
This is True Crime and a Dime, Chapter 2. So we're going to be sharing 4 more new cases with you.
And just a little reminder, these are just small cases that aren't enough to fill an entire episode, but still should be told, and some of them are quite interesting. So,
Yes. And like we said before, if you have any feedback on this, please let us know. Please rate, share, and comment on our podcast, wherever you're listening, because it's how we get our name out there. And we just want to hear some feedback. Are you liking True Crime and a Dime?
yeah, we would appreciate it.
Alrighty. So my first case is Gregory Johnson. I'm going to give a little trigger warning because suicide is discussed in this case. This case could go either way. Kind of in the middle of, I don't really know what happened. So Gregory Johnson, he was a 20-year-old junior kinesiology major at San Jose State University. He was found dead on November 22nd, 2008 in the San Jose University Sigma Chi fraternity house where he lived in San Jose, California. He was the only black member of the fraternity at this time. He was found by members of the fraternity in the basement around 2:45 p.m. hanging from a water pipe in a sitting position with his legs out in front of him. And he was hanging by a heavy-duty extension cord tied around his neck. Gregory is 6'2" and weighed 185 pounds of muscle. The distance between the basement floor and the water pipe from which he was found allegedly hanging from measured 5 feet 10 inches. So how did he strangle?
Yeah, unless he was put up there.
He's taller than the distance he's hanging from.
Yeah. But I was thinking in my head if somebody strung him up there.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the only way. Yeah,
Because I feel like in any type of like strangling situation, your initial reaction is to react. You know what I mean?
That's why I'm thinking in my head that this guy must have been passed out and strung up there.
Yeah.
If they can actually say in an autopsy that he strangled there, like he was strangled to death, somebody had to have put him there.
Mm-hmm. The fraternity brother that found him said that Johnson's knees were bent and he was almost resting on the floor. This fraternity brother unwound the ligature cord and placed Johnson in a nearby chair. Paramedics pronounced him dead upon arrival. Gregory's mother, Denise Johnson, was not notified of his death until several hours later. Students, grief counselors, and university administration were notified of Gregory's death before Denise was ever notified.
Wow.
They were notified by Clear Lake, California police officers coming to their house. Denise mentioned feeling intimidated because one of the officers, like the way he was standing, he kept his hand on his gun his whole time. So they waited until the next morning to drive to San Jose because they feared for their safety.
Yeah.
Of note, they are African American.
Okay. Yeah.
When Denise Johnson arrived at the Sigma Chi fraternity house around 1:30 p.m. the next day on November 23rd, she noted the basement smelled like pine sol because somebody had already cleaned up the crime scene. Or a potential crime scene.
Oh, someone was cleaning, huh?
Mm-hmm. The next day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first thought in your head, when potential crime has happened.
Yep, let's clean up. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Apparently, one of the fraternity brothers lied to the evidence collector by telling them that a cell phone at the scene did not belong to Gregory, even though it did.
Oh, that's a big lie.
Gregory's sister-in-law recognized the phone, and frat members acknowledged that the phone belonged to Gregory, and they handed it over to her. When she went through the phone later that night, she found that all of Gregory's pictures had been deleted, and somebody had attempted to call his voicemail at 8:30 p.m. on November 22nd, several hours after he was allegedly found dead, because he was found around like 2:45 p.m.
Yeah.
And someone's calling his voicemail at 8:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Johnsons were denied a viewing of the body because it had already been identified by fraternity members and his driver's license.
No, I don't think that's legal. It's your family member. You should be able to see the body.
They were only shown a black and white photograph of the body on November 24th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they had
What
to
is this,
identify him from a photograph.
Black and white photo? Like,
I don't know. Now, it was a black and white photo, but his parents say they saw no marks on his neck. But again, it is a photo. They didn't get to see the body in person.
Yes. Yes.
Denise said, right from the beginning, it's like they were covering things up. I got the feeling they didn't want us down there. An autopsy performed on November 24, 2008, says, the decedent is positively identified visually by his mother, Denise Johnson, on November 24, 2008. But that's not exactly true because she was only shown a photograph. I read through the autopsy report, and his body was fairly normal and in good shape. The only abnormal findings it mentioned were 2 tattoos, one on his left deltoid and one on his right hand, and a ligature furrow on his neck. No other injuries were identified. His post-mortem alcohol level was 0.07 grams, and no drugs were found, and no suicide note was found on him or at the fraternity house. His cause of death was ligature hanging, and the manner was listed as suicide. Gregory's body was delivered to the funeral home on December 1st, 2008, and Denise discovered a 6-inch crack in the back of his head from which brain matter was still oozing. And his neck was broken.
What?
Neither of these were mentioned in the incomplete autopsy report that the Johnsons received. Now, this could be an incision made during the autopsy, or it could be something suspicious, because I did read through the autopsy report and it didn't specifically say a 6-inch cut was made to the head. You know what I mean? It didn't detail steps of what they did. So I don't know if that was done during the autopsy or if that's just some weird suspicious finding they overlooked.
Well, usually in an autopsy, when they're sitting there doing your skull, it's a specific cut that they do. It's not just. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious if it was that specific cut, because it goes from
because I know they remove the brain.
Your ear. Yeah, they go from the back of your ear to the other ear, and then, go in there. Try not to be too gory here, but
yeah. But you think you would document that in your autopsy report? Unless you're not required to, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, because do you have to document the standard Y incision and stuff you have to make?
I don't know. I know, at work in operative notes, they have to do step by step of what they did.
Yeah,
I don't know,
but that's also a living human being. Yeah. I don't know.
Because I feel like either way, lawsuits can come from mishandlings in an operative note, and I feel like lawsuits can also come from mishandlings in an autopsy. So I feel like, I don't know, to cover yourself, I feel like everything should be documented. But
it's true, yeah. So...
you didn't document it; it wasn't done.
That's right. Preach.
Yep. All right, so his parents were obviously very upset with the suicide ruling. They felt that the university police department didn't fully investigate. Denise said the fraternity members were treated as witnesses to a suicide, but should have been treated as suspects. And she said, I thought when the police came in and found a dead body, it was treated as a homicide until proven different. Why was his case so different? Not wrong.
No, not wrong.
She also said her son was excited about the near future. He was scheduled to participate in a judo tournament a week after his death. He was planning a trip to Las Vegas for his 21st birthday in March, and it was a year and a half away from becoming the first in his family to graduate from college.
Yeah, so he had a future, a plan.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't there's no way a 6'2" man hung himself from that.
A 5
Like,
foot
that was his
10.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his choice. No,
Right.
and
And
they
he like
already
was
made it.
involved in a lot too.
Yeah, the frat people were already making it suspicious with hiding the phone, like guilty
Mm-hmm.
already. You know?
Yeah.
Don't do guilty shit.
Yeah.
You know, if you aren't guilty, you know.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know like what his relationship was with his fraternity brothers.
Yeah.
He graduated in 2006 from Lower Lake High School in Lower Lake, California, where he was the student body vice president. He was an athletic trainer, an academic decathlon member, and a regional finalist for the Lions Club Student Speaker Contest. He was licensed as a minister at Trinity Baptist Church in Honolulu, Hawaii, where he lived for 4 years, and he was ordained as a preacher of the gospel in 2004. So, like, he was involved in a lot. I mean, and also is like a minister or preacher going to commit suicide?
Yeah. He sounds like a genuine human being.
Yeah.
Not a suicidal, I'm taking myself out this way.
Mm-hmm. And his mom said, I knew in my heart, deep in my heart, that something was wrong with what UPD said.
Yeah.
Johnson said their son had never shown any signs of depression. Even when police interviewed fraternity members, they said Gregory was very social and never had any problems at the fraternity, and that he never showed any signs of depression or suicidal ideation. But again, like, are they just saying that? Or were there issues there? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
The FBI eventually took over the investigation, exploring it as a hate crime, but they found no evidence of that. Denise requested access to the investigation via the Freedom for Information Act, but she was denied.
Why?
I don't know. There's a Freedom of Information Act for a reason.
Yeah. I want my information on my family member.
The investigation results were allegedly withheld due to matters of national security.
Excuse me? When is a college student hanging themselves in the basement a matter of national security?
That's a great question.
Whose ass did they pull that excuse out of?
And that's kind of where this case ends, sadly.
That's terrible.
It was 2008. His parents are still fighting to have the investigation reopened.
Wow. Another one that's just written off as a suicide.
Mm-hmm. Yes!
Oh my gosh.
Like, I need everyone listening to know how often this is happening. This could happen to your family. Like,
yeah.
This could happen to anybody. This mishandling.
People are just be getting away with murder more than you think, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
It is. His parents created Justice for Gregory Johnson Facebook and Instagram pages, and they have a website called WhoKilledGregoryJohnsonJr.com where you can sign the petition to help get his case reopened. So we will post that link. Please go sign it.
Yes, please.
So even if they find some cold hard evidence, it's lagging. So like you'll say something and then I don't hear anything.
I know. Go ahead.
What were you going to say? The struggles of podcasting from hundreds of miles away.
Yeah, it makes me want to drink sometimes.
I know. So if you guys ever hear us interrupting each other, it's never on purpose. It's lag.
Yeah. Internet sucks, man.
Mm-hmm.
But all I was going to say is that they need to reopen this case so we can get some justice. But I feel like that's so terrible that they just wrote it off like that and didn't even like investigate properly. I feel like.
even if they found some cold hard evidence that confirmed, yes, this was sadly a suicide, at least it would be after a thorough investigation. His family
Yeah.
is at least owed a thorough investigation, regardless of what the outcome is.
Yeah, I agree to that. Yeah.
And they weren't given that.
No, and they're not asking for much.
No,
Just
just to reopen
simply
it.
do your job. How about that one?
They're not saying change the ruling right now. They're saying keep investigating.
Yeah. And I agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, check out that website so that we can maybe,
Make a difference.
yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Who knows? 10 more signatures could even be what they need. You never know.
You never know. Okay. My next case is about the. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Blind girl problem. Flannan Isle Lighthouse. So this is kind of a little bit of a mysterious one.
An
For
old
you.
timey, too.
Yeah, kind of definitely an old timey one. Okay, so Flannan Isle Lighthouse, located off the western side of Scotland. The 23-meter or 75-foot tall lighthouse was built between 1895 and 1899 by the Northern Lighthouse Board, who got the design from David Allen Stevenson. A man by the name of George Lawson oversaw the entire construction of the lighthouse, including having to haul all of the materials up a 45-meter or 148-foot cliff after transporting the materials on a boat to the Isle. With the cost of all of the labor, materials, and they also built a shore station with railway tracks for easy transportation to the lighthouse. The total cost would be equivalent to $225,000 in today's money.
Wow.
So that's pretty much a spit in the wind nowadays.
Yeah.
The first day the lighthouse was ever lit was on December 7th, 1899. The railway tracks were mainly used as a steam engine to transport supplies to the lighthouse. In an average, throughout the year, that's how they would like get their supplies. And also they would go through about 20 barrels of paraffin to keep the light going in the lighthouse. So that was something they had to make sure they had on hand too. In 1925, Flannan became the first Scottish lighthouse to receive communication from the shore by wireless telegraphy. In 1960s, they upgraded the railway system, removing the tracks and leaving the concrete foundation. And then they started using a 3-wheeled off-road vehicle that was powered by a 400 cubic centimeter or 24 cubic inch 4-stroke engine built by Ames McLean. Then on September 28th, 1971, a reinforced helipad was constructed to make maintenance on the lighthouse a lot easier and also accessible during heavier weather, because before that they were just going by boat.
Yeah.
At this time, now the light is burning on acid. Hold on. Acetylene gas? Or
Acetylene? I don't know.
is it acetylene, you
I
think?
don't know. I'm just thinking of
I'll say
acetaminophen.
All right, I'll restart that sentence. At this time, now the light is burning on acetylene gas or ethine gas. With a range of
Yeah, I don't
17
know.
nautical miles or 20 miles or 31 kilometers. The shore station was converted into apartments around this time. So there's just a nice little history on the lighthouse. And the reason why this lighthouse has caught our attention, though, is on December 15th, 1900, a steamer called Archer, on its way from Philadelphia, had logged that the light was not operating properly in the poor weather conditions that day. He didn't get to report this until December 18th to the Northern Lighthouse Board when he docked. Once the information was passed on, they sent a relief vessel to the lighthouse. It was unable to reach the lighthouse as planned on December 20th because of weather, so the boat named Hesperus did not reach the island until noon on December 26th. So there were 3 men who were supposed to be manning the lighthouse. Their names were James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur. There was also a 4th man who would spend time on shore rotating out with the other men. When they arrived, they found that the flagpole had no flags. None of the supply boxes had been left where they should have been left for restock, and no one came out to welcome anybody ashore.
Weird.
The captain of the vessel, Jimmy Harvey, blew the ship's whistle and fired off a flare, but was unable to get anything from the men who were supposed to be on the island. When Joseph Moore, who was the 3 man's relief, so this is the 4th man, Joseph Moore, took a small boat ashore, he found that the entrance gate and the main door were both closed. The beds were unmade and the clock was unwound. So Moore went back to give the news to the seamen on the ship, and a few of them joined him in the search, headed up to the lighthouse to, get a couple more eyes on there, see what they can find.
Yeah.
They found that the lamp had been cleaned and refilled. A set of oil skins, which is undergarments for sailors, because I didn't know what oil skins were.
Mm-hmm.
Sailors would wear them in the wet climates for working and stuff, so that's what they were wearing. They only found 1 set, suggesting that one of the men left without putting theirs on.
So there was 3 sets?
Yeah, they each would have had a set. So, and then there was only 1 left in the lighthouse. After searching the island and the lighthouse, there was no sign of any of the men. Moore and the seamen were left behind to continue tending to the lighthouse, and the captain made sure to report to the Northern Lighthouse Board in a telegram dated on December 26, stating, quote, "A dreadful accident has happened at the Flannans. The keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and the Occasional have disappeared from the island. The clocks were stopped, and other signs indicate that the accident must have happened about a week ago. Poor fellows, they must have been blown over the cliffs or drowned trying to secure a crane." End quote. While the men were on the island, some signs they found concerning was on the west side had a lot of damage caused by a recent storm in the area. The iron railroad on that side was ripped from its concrete, and a rock that weighed more than a ton was displaced from the top of the cliff, which was 200 feet or 60 meters above sea level.
It's a powerful storm.
Yeah. Like, ripped it out of the concrete and everything, yeah.
A 1-ton rock?
Yeah. Moved it from the top of a cliff. On December 29th, Robert Murhead, a superintendent at the Northern Lighthouse Board, went to the island to perform an official investigation of the incident. He is the same person that hired all of those men and actually knew them all personally. His report read, quote, "From evidence which I was able to procure, I was satisfied that the men had been on duty up till dinner time on Saturday the 15th of December. That they had gone down to secure A box with the mooning ropes, landing ropes, etc. were kept. Was secured in a crevice in a rock about 115 feet or 34 meters above sea level, and that an extra large seat had rushed up. The face of the rock had gone above them, and coming down with immense force had swept them completely away. End quote.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, these keepers left behind family, and this incident tarnished the lighthouse's reputation for many years after. There, of course, was a ton of rumors and theories that traveled around the town, from the men running away on a ship to spies coming to capture them, or even a serpent monster eating them. But in reality, the
Oh, it was
theory is
Scotland.
that, yeah, right. That's true. It's the Isles. um, but the reality is with the theory is that two of the men went out to secure some equipment, and one of the men stayed behind, which was policy. But when he saw something, or for whatever reason he wanted to go help the other men, and they were all swept away to sea while they were out there during the storm.
Yeah, I think that sounds probably most likely.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
but it's like, why wouldn't he have put us that wetsuit on? I don't
but
know.
if it was like,
I guess if it was
if he's,
emergent, you're just running.
yes, that's what I was thinking. If it was an
Yeah,
emergency, he saw them really struggling and he just wanted to run out, and
yeah.
then an accident happened.
It's sad though. I mean, I don't think it's very likely they just ran away. They had families. Like,
No, I
why
think they
would
were
three
just
men all
working. Like,
decide together? Let's run away and start a new life.
yeah, I think that was just some small town talk type thing.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, just a little
Well, history
interesting
lesson, kind
lighthouse
of.
case. Yeah, yeah. So,
All right, my next case is Tracy Kroh. Tracy Kroh disappeared at the age of only 17 years old on August 5th, 1989. She stepped off her older sister's front porch and was never seen again.
wow.
Yeah. Tracy Marie Kroh was born on April 9th, 1972, to Ivan and Ellen Kroh in Millersburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
This
Wow.
is about, yeah, this is about 25 miles outside of Harrisburg, which is our capital. She was the baby of the family. Teachers described her as a shy and extremely responsible student. She attended Halifax High School, where she participated in the yearbook club, did artwork for the school newspaper, and was a member of the National Honor Society. She also had a boyfriend and her own car at this time. August 5th, 1989 was a Saturday. Tracy spent the day working on some errands and doing some projects. She wasn't able to find a job that summer, so much of her time was spent working on artwork for next year's school newspaper. And this upcoming school year would have been her senior year. Later that evening, she hung out with friends at the gazebo in the Millersburg Square, which was a popular teenage hangout. She left her friends around 10 p.m. that night to head to her sister's house. Her sister was 20 years old, so just a little bit older than her, and she lived at Alex Acres Trailer Court, which was only about 7 miles away from the Millersburg Square on Route 147. But her sister and brother-in-law weren't home when she got there. After that, we don't know what happened.
Wow.
Yep.
Nobody was home. So,
The next morning, Tracy's mom, Ellen, realized she never came home the night before, but she wasn't too worried right away because Tracy would often spend the night at her older sister's house. Later that day, they called their oldest daughter, who told them Tracy wasn't there last night, so they immediately called the police. Later that evening on August 6th, Tracy's blue striped white 1971 Mercury Comet was located at the town square. Her belongings were not in the vehicle. Tracy's boyfriend's house was directly across the square, so police questioned him and his family, assuming after Tracy left her sister's house, she may have parked in the square to walk over to her boyfriend's house. But they all
That's what I
stated,
was thinking.
yeah, but they all stated Tracy was never there that night.
Okay.
I guess rumors
So
circulated for a long time about the boyfriend and his family being involved, but there has never been any evidence to show that they were, and they have been cooperative.
I know, but you can't help that they wanted to look because, like, how
Right,
coincidental is it really that her car wound up there?
right, because it's always the husband or it's always the boyfriend, or
Yep,
so
yeah.
they
So
have
that's
you
at
have to
least
question.
good police work.
Yes. Tracy was not the type to run away, and she left $700 behind. The police had no evidence or suspects to follow up on, and her case went cold for about 4 years until December 1993, when Tracy's driver's license and National Honor Society card were found on the banks of the Wakansico Creek, about 10 miles south of Millersburg, off Rakers Mill Road in Washington Township. Sadly, this
That's
still
scary.
gave the police no leads, and her case went cold again.
In 93.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And she went missing in 89. And so it kind of makes you wonder, like, after 4 years, they were found on, like, a
A
creek
bank.
bed.
Yeah. How
You think they
far?
would
I
have
want to know
been
how far that is from where
damaged.
her car was found.
Right. And, like, I don't know what kind of shape they were in when they were found. Like, did it look like they were just recently placed there, or did it look like they've been there for 4 years?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Because, like, you know what? First theory came into my head is that somebody literally just nabbed her from the house and took her against
Mhm.
her will. Nobody was home to see anything.
It was a trailer park, so, like, sometimes some sketchy people live in those, depending what kind of, if it's not like an upkept trailer park.
Yeah. There's bad apples anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if like somebody was watching, knew she was home, saw a teenage girl come home and was like, and just capitalized on that, you know, unfortunately, that situation of hers. Like, that's why I'm wondering if somebody was watching, to
Right.
like get her right at that moment when nobody was home. And then, like, it's also really sad to think that it was well over 24 hours before anybody's like, oh, she's missing.
Mm-hmm. And one other weird thing is, like, it was her sister's house, so, like, how did someone know she was going to show up there at that time? Because her sister didn't even know she was coming.
That's true. Yeah.
Unless there just happened to be some terrible person nearby that just happened to see her, and I don't know. But then did they get in her car? Because her car was driven away and found
Well,
in the
I was going
square.
to say, also, we have no idea if she even went to her sister's and left there and then was taken somewhere else. What if she stopped
Right.
somewhere?
Right.
We have no idea.
The only thing I wasn't clear on in my research was, how do we know she was at the trailer park? Uh,
Yeah.
my guess is that, like, maybe there was a neighbor that saw her or something, but I
Yeah,
wasn't
stop
quite
by or
clear
something.
on how we know for sure she did go to the trailer park and then
Yeah.
left.
But somehow we have that information. So
Yeah.
I'd be curious, like, did she leave alone? Like,
Yeah.
because she could have left alone and
Yeah.
something could have happened to her past that. We have no idea where she went. And she
Mhm.
was gone for 24 hours. We have no idea. Like, nobody had any idea where she was for how freaking long.
Right. Or maybe she did drive herself back to the square and was in the process of walking over to her boyfriend's house, and someone snatched her then.
Yeah, because all her stuff was out, like out of the car. So she obviously took all of her stuff out of the car.
Hmm. Like, she had intent to go somewhere, and then something intervened.
Yeah.
But, like, what are the odds?
Which
Like,
is
that's so crazy.
high possibility,
Yeah, it
even.
is. Wrong place, wrong
Yeah,
time.
because I mean, she didn't tell her sister she was showing up, so who's to say she was tell her boyfriend that she was going to show up.
Right. Yeah. She might have just
So
been
she could have
stopping
just,
by unexpectedly.
yeah, she really could have.
Mm-hmm. In 2016, the PA State Police obtained a warrant to search the property of a man named Matthew Webster after receiving an anonymous tip. Webster knew Ivan Kroh, which is Tracy's dad, and his property was allegedly a party spot back in the 1980s. His property was just a quarter-mile away from the Alex Acres trailer court, which is where her sister lived.
Yeah.
Cadaver dogs found nothing, and police searched the property several more times throughout 2016.
She's not there. She's in the river.
In 2018, a woman named Holly Mallett reported to the PA State Police that Matthew Webster came to her house to hang out one night during one of their searches of his property and admitted to being involved in Tracy's disappearance. After a few beers, Webster allegedly confessed to her that he and some of his buddies saw Tracy that night, and this is like a quote of what he apparently said to her. It was supposed to just be a rape and then done, but it turned out to be a lot more than that. Just a rape.
God. Oh, men are disgusting.
Police wiretapped Webster's phone and recorded a conversation in which Mallett was asking for forgiveness for snitching on him. And then the two discuss how they're going to handle Holly's confession to police.
Wow.
They agreed that it would be best to say that Holly wasn't mentally capable of rational thought.
Okay, wow.
Again, another situation where two idiots just happen to find each other.
Yep, two idiots, man. Just committing crimes, man.
So that's the plot these two morons are coming up with. Let's say you were mentally capable of rational thought when you confessed that to police.
That's the best they could come up with, I guess.
Yeah. Both of them were charged with perjury. In December 2019, Webster pleaded no contest to felony perjury and was sentenced to 4 to 6 months in prison. But he was given credit for time served and was released from custody immediately.
Oh my God. Of course he was.
Can you believe that?
No. Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. With all the bull crap we've talked about, yeah, I can.
I know. Did you just see me deflate?
I know.
Yeah.
Nothing new here. In July 2020, Mallett pleaded guilty to perjury. She was sentenced to 6 to 23 months in prison. Neither she nor Webster have been charged in connection with Tracy's actual disappearance, only with lying to their testimony about it.
Okay.
In May of 2020,
they have nothing.
Right, they don't. Other than she just came forward one day and was like, "Hey, this is what he told me."
Right. Yeah, this is what he told me over a few beers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they both seem like they're not good people, but we don't have proof.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're innocent, but you know, it's also doesn't scream guilty either, you know.
Right, yeah. In May of 2022, an 89-year-old man named Mark Eugene Werfel was publicly named as a suspect. He would have been about 56 in 1989 when Tracy disappeared. Police have searched his property for evidence in her case at least twice. He is also a suspect in the death of his wife and several sexual assaults on women.
Oh. Okay, yeah, that simple sentence took him a little further up on my list.
Sure did. He is also the biological father of Tracy's younger sister.
Wow, what a small world.
Yep. So that makes him a very good-looking suspect. Because disappearances are often from someone you know.
Yes. I think there's a statistic on that, like a percentage, and it's very high.
Yeah. He was named as a suspect in Tracy's case at a competency hearing as he is awaiting trial on unrelated burglary charges. At the hearing, the judge determined he was not competent to stand trial and the situation would not improve because he has dementia.
Oh, it's so unfortunate that your brain has gone now that we're going to just excuse what you did when your brain was functioning.
Yeah. I'm sorry, dementia is not an excuse for anything.
Right? Like, I don't know
Even
if
in
that's
the
considered a
hospital,
gray
dementia is
area.
not an excuse for a patient to hit a nurse. I don't care if they have dementia. No.
Exactly.
You don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you do the big boy crime, you do the big boy charm, you know? So, I don't care if he doesn't even know what his middle name is while he's standing up there,
Right.
actually. It's unfortunate he made it to 89.
Yeah, it is.
Let's be real here.
Yeah.
So,
that's true.
Because he doesn't seem like a good human being.
No. Authorities demolished his home in March 2023 after determining his home contained evidence related to Kroh's disappearance through their investigation. But they found no remains.
No, yeah.
And that is sadly the latest update in her case. Authorities believe that Tracy was abducted, probably by someone she knew.
When was he looked into? What year was that?
That was pretty recent. It was May 2022.
May 2022.
So 3 years ago.
Well, if he ain't dead yet, he's deep in dementia.
Mm-hmm. It's not funny, but it's funny.
Welcome to our podcast. We have a little bit of morbid humor.
Yeah, we have lots of morbid humor, and we're not afraid to call someone out.
No. Especially if you're a terrible human being.
Yeah. We're going to shit talk you.
I have no pity on you whatsoever, you piece of garbage.
Yeah.
I am going to treat you as such.
Yep.
Well, I don't know what to think about that one because, like, nothing screams guilty of this case. He's guilty of other things.
Right.
And there are some things that kind of point in his direction, but nothing can, definitively say it was him. So.
Right, I know. There's a lot there, but like not quite enough, I guess.
Yeah,
so I'm not really sure
for sure.
What the next step is with him, like if there's because they made it sound like he's not fit to stand trial.
Ever, yeah, so they're not gonna if the judge said that, they're not gonna do anything to him, they're just gonna let him die. That's it.
Right.
They're not gonna try and retry him for something else.
Right.
So unfortunately, that seems if he's guilty of it, this is where it ends, which is really shitty to think.
It is.
He is the one that did it.
It is. Tracy's family
just because it took 30 years or whatever to get caught, that like, oops, now you're too old.
Yeah.
So let's just forget about it. That's a terrible attitude to have.
It is. Like, who cares if he has dementia? He needs to serve time for whatever little bit of time he has left.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be given special treatment just because you have dementia.
No.
Tracy's family hasn't given up on looking for her, and neither has the town of Millersburg. Her missing person flyers still remain displayed in store windows.
Aww.
At the time of her disappearance, Tracy Kroh was 4'10" and 82 pounds.
Oh my God.
She was tiny.
Wow. She was tiny.
So it would have been so easy to snatch her.
Like nothing. Yeah. That's sad.
At the time of her disappearance, her ears were pierced. She was wearing a blue-white floral shirt, size small, blue-white shorts, size small, white canvas sneakers, size 4.5. I wear a size 9.
I wear a 7.5.
I can imagine having size like 5 feet.
Yeah, right?
She had a silver Timex watch, a white gold Halifax High School class of 1990 ring with a white diamond, a small purse with the image of a unicorn on its side,
Oh,
and a key ring with an image of Roger Rabbit.
she was just a kid.
Yeah.
A
17.
little girl.
Yeah. And she was so cute when you see a picture of her.
Oh, poor thing.
If you or anyone you know has any information on the whereabouts or disappearance of Tracy Kroh, please call the PA State Police at 717-362-8700.
So my next case, this one, these are pretty interesting because this one's kind of weird too. Robert Elmer Kleason. And let me tell you, when I was typing this up, the amount of times I was voice texting and it kept putting Gleason, and I had to go back and correct. So I had to go back and read through this thing 10 times because I'm like, I better not say Gleason during this whole entire thing. So here we go. Robert was born September 20th, 1934, to a mentally ill father and his wife. Robert grew up in a household where guns and hunting were a big passion. When Kleason was 16 years old, while out hunting, he had stepped on a nail. So his mother took him to the hospital. While Kleason was waiting for the doctor, he became so impatient and angry that he hit his mother and got a gun from the car and returned to the emergency room, opening fire.
Because he was
Luckily,
impatient.
no one was hurt. Yep.
Okay.
Luckily, no one was hurt by Kleason, and he was sent to a psychiatric facility for around 2 years. And in 1970, Kleason gained a sociology degree in college, but that's a very small positive thing he has done. Okay, so don't read into that too much. Because the next year he shot Dennis Dubois in the foot while they were fighting. He ended up jumping bail and made his way to Austin, Texas. Kleason was Gucci. Kleason was a storyteller, and when he moved to Texas, some of the stories he was telling acquaintances were he was a Korean War veteran and a former CIA operative.
Bad kitty.
He is so bad right now. No. Yeah, now you got your ass straight. That's what you get. Now he's, oh my god. Yeah, I'm armed and loaded. It's literally hanging on my because they're rotten.
It's so funny.
I just like pull my gun out. Pew pew.
You're like the guy in the story.
I'm kidding. Yeah, see, just pull his gun, just impatient, son of a bitch. Very quiet over there. Okay, so he was telling lies that he was a former Korean War veteran and a CIA operative. He also used different aliases, which some speculate has to do with a dissociative personality disorder.
Yep.
In 1973, Kleason was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Later that year, he was arrested for theft and became angry when the church never sent a lawyer to help get him out.
Okay.
Once he was released from jail, 2 members of the church who were Mormon missionaries named Gary Darley, 20 years old, and Mark Fisher, 19 years old. They would, very young. They would regularly visit Kleason at his trailer located in the southwest outskirts of Austin. Despite another member of the church becoming increasingly uneasy with Kleason's behavior and also being warned by the bishop to stop their visits to Kleason's because of his erratic behavior, Darley and Fisher decided to visit him one last time on October 28th, 1974.
That's pretty bad if a priest
They
is
had
even being
made
like, nope,
plans.
he can't be helped. Don't go over there.
That is true. Like I feel like that's a big
Yeah.
warning sign if literally they're like, he's kind of erratic. I don't trust him. They visited him on October 28th, 1974. They had made plans to dine with Robert that night, but they will never be seen again, nor were their bodies ever found, actually.
Oh, wow.
They found, this guy, they found Fisher's bloody watch and a bullet-punctured name tag in Kleason's trailer. At the time, Kleason worked in a taxidermy shop
Oh,
where police found blood and body tissue on a bandsaw. They suspect he dismembered them and buried them.
God.
He was tried and sentenced to death in 1975. But after only 2 years of serving, Kleason won an appeal overturning his conviction because courts found that the search warrants on his home were not executed correctly. So the key evidence in his case that was found in the home should have been excluded from his trial, and authorities opted not to retry him.
So that just excuses
released.
murder?
Yep.
Like, I understand
I guess so.
there's a proper way to do things, but if evidence is still found, that should not be ignored just because a step was missed.
Right?
It doesn't change the fact that he
That's what
killed
I'm
them.
saying. Like,
it doesn't make him innocent. It doesn't change
But I
the
guess,
outcome.
like, on the other side, argument is like I guess they're going to argue that Kleason's still a human being and it should be a fair trial and that wasn't fair.
But then he should still be retried. They should still be able to get a warrant and get evidence the right way.
Yeah, but they decided not to retry him. They could have retried him, they just didn't do it.
Again, I feel like this is where lazy police work comes in.
Yep, they didn't do it yet anyway. We'll get there. So Robert moved to Buffalo, New York. Of course, he was just released from prison. I'm getting out of Texas. It's like,
of course.
So he moved to Buffalo, New York after getting out of prison in Texas, but he was later imprisoned there on assault. Hold on, I'm going to let this child out. I'm very sorry. I'm going to beat your ass.
In 5 minutes, he's going to be clawing to come back in.
I know he will. So we can do this. Don't need our next crime case to be Gucci. But okay, he was later imprisoned on assault charges and released in 1988. In 1990, Kleason moved to Lincolnshire, England. And I know if there are any English people, they're going to roast me on however I pronounce that. That's okay. I'll take it. I will take that roast.
I butchered town names too.
Yeah. The reason he relocated there was he had a pen pal named Marie Longley that he later married. Now that Robert had relocated and is feeling more comfortable because nobody knows who he is in England, he becomes more active with the locals and also picked up a hobby of collecting guns.
Oh, great.
A firearms license officer who was suspicious of Kleason began telling a firearms license officer was suspicious when Kleason began telling people he was a veteran and a former CIA agent. Same lies as he told before. They obtained information confirming he never served in the military, so that information was passed on to police, where they then ran a more thorough background check on Kleason. That is when everybody found out about his background, which that information Kleason purposely kept from his residency application and kept that from his wife.
Oh, his wife now.
Yeah, but he never told her. They also found him in possession of illegal firearms and munitions. So he was given a 3-year prison sentence in 2000 in England. Marie was so scared to leave him because he kept threatening to kill her if she did. It took her 10 years to finally get herself out. Yeah. In 2001, while in prison, Texas authorities started trying to extradite Kleason because new DNA analysis had found that Darley's blood was found near Kleason's residence. I couldn't find any more information about the results of testing and stuff, and I think the reason is because Kleason, he trial was never held then.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's why I was unable to find any of that. So I think they tried to extradite him back to Texas for his trial, and then he ended up on April 21st, 2003 in Belmarsh prison. He died of heart failure. So we never got to see a full trial for those two crimes, and we never got to learn the exact DNA evidence that they found that should have been what convicted him. And he pretty much got away with murder and just wound up dying in England.
Was he imprisoned when he died?
Yes, okay. He was in prison because he was serving 3 years at that point for the illegal firearms. And they were trying to extradite him back to Texas. And he was actively waiting to be extradited. And he died.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's sad. Those poor guys were just trying to help him and they get murdered.
Yeah, like literally, that's all they were doing was trying to help him, trying to be a good person, going to dinner, visiting him in the trailer, all that stuff.
Sounds like they were like trying to help him get on his feet in a way. Sad. But hell yeah to DNA.
Yeah, new DNA analysis. I know he did it. He did that. I mean, it's just really shitty that. I mean, he even did 2 years for it, and then an appeal won him for a murder case and got him out. Like, that's ridiculous. Our laws
do. They do. We've learned that many times now.
Yeah, for sure. Make Like a Shadow and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Lurking in the Shadows podcast.
Check us out on TikTok.
At Lurking in the Shadows pod.
And if you have any feedback or case suggestions or anything else you'd like to discuss with us, send us an email.
At lurkingintheshadowspodcast@gmail.com. And please rate, share, subscribe, leave us comments. That helps to boost us a little bit. We want your feedback. And like I said, even if you have criticism, criticize us so we can get better. We want to hear.
That's right. Bye.